Hi, my name is Scott Morschauser. I am a professor of ancient and medieval history at Rowan University. I've been teaching at Rowan since 1994. I went to Gettysburg College where I received my bachelor's degree. I was a major in ancient Greek and also religion with a concentration in biblical studies. I then went to Johns Hopkins University where I received an MA in ancient Near Eastern studies and continued on for my PhD in Egyptology and a minor in biblical studies. After that, I went to Princeton Theological Seminary where I received a Master of Divinity degree, and I am an ordained minister in the Presbyterian Church USA. It's such an immense topic, so I'm only going to be able to get, a few things here. But Christmas, that most people know, celebrates the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem, as the Gospel according to Luke states, as Savior who is Christ the Lord. It's celebrated and has been so since the 4th century AD on December the 25th, although there's no specific date given in the Gospel accounts. However, Luke places Jesus' birth in the reign of the first Roman Emperor Augustus. The Gospel according to Matthew, however, concentrates Jesus' birth at the end of the reign of King Herod the Great, the king of Israel. Scholars using that data suggest that Jesus was probably born between 6 or 7 BC and 4 BC. The December 25th date is largely due to the Emperor Constantine, who, after officially making Christianity a protected religion of the Roman Empire, commemorated Jesus' birth on December the 25th, sometime around the time of the Roman celebration of the Saturnalia. Because of that, some people want to see Christmas as an adaptation of a non-Christian festival at around the time of the winter solstice. However, there are some good reasons to suppose that Jesus could have been born in December. The first is that whatever else Constantine did, he was very, very careful about offending Christians. Saturnalia had very bad associations with drunkenness and wild revelry. So it was not a festival that he would necessarily bring to a Christian celebration. But secondly, and more importantly, according to Luke's Gospel, the news of Jesus' conception to his mother Mary was given by the angel Gabriel in the 6th month. Now, if one followed a Jewish calendar, which there is every reason to suppose that Luke did, that would make the news of Jesus' conception in the spring, which suggests that if you count 9 months from there, it would bring it sometime in December. So there is some evidence that it could have been in December, and in fact, Mary's what is called the Annunciation to Mary, the announcement that she was going to bear Jesus, was always in March. So if you count that time, you'd have 9 months. So there is some reason to suggest that perhaps December could be a plausible day for that. But Christmas in the Western Church has been observed on December the 25th from that time onwards. However, in the Eastern churches, it is observed about 13 days later. So it would be January, I believe, January the 7th. What we'll see is that with Constantine's innovations, that is, accepting Christianity as a protected religion, and then within a generation or two, it will become the only religion in the Roman Empire. But Christmas will be celebrated as a holiday and festival season from that time onwards throughout the Middle Ages. During the Middle Ages, the development of the Middle Ages, as Europe is becoming Christianized, as we're going to find the conversion of Germanic tribes and Celtic tribes, we are going to start to see elements of their winter festivals, Yule Festival, and the celebration of the winter solstice brought into the Christian celebration. However, these pagan elements are going to be given Christian meaning. So for example, within Germanic tradition and Celtic tradition, holly is a sacred plant, but the prickles of the holly are going to be reinterpreted to be the thorns on Jesus' crown. The berries of a holly, the blood red berry, that's going to be seen as, pointing to Jesus' blood. Evergreens are going to be seen as signs of eternal life. I mean, this has been popularized in the song The Holly and the Ivy, but that's indeed what we see. We see that these pagan elements are going to become Christianized and brought within the Christian story itself. Now, it will continue to be a very, very important holiday as we get to the Protestant Reformation. Martin Luther, especially, was a very big advocate of and a very big fan of Christmas. And some of the things that he is going to bring to the celebration, especially in terms of song and then his theological interpretation, are going to become part of the fixed tradition as well. It will continue to be celebrated by Catholics in the West, but then Christmas goes into a steep decline during the 17th through the 19th century in England, and to a certain extent also in America due to English influence, and that's due to the Puritans. The Puritans do not like Christmas. They don't like it for two reasons. First off, they claim that it was part of the Popish religion. It was too Catholic for them. But the second thing is that apparently some of the celebration of Christmas during that time did have some rather, how should we say, chaotic elements to it. People drinking, getting drunk. And they considered that to be heathen. And so they didn't want to have anything to do with it. In fact, Cromwell in the 17th century will outlaw it. And that attitude is really going to remain in force pretty much through the 18th century into the beginning of the 19th century. Now, it will be celebrated. We know it's celebrated in America because we have some Christmas carols that come from that time, which certainly suggest that they were celebrating it. It is not going to be until the 19th century where we really start to see the development of Christmas into the celebration that we find today. And that's really going to be due to the work of three authors and one artist. Three authors and one artist are really going to bring, how should we say, the image of Christmas and fix it in popular minds. The first person is Washington Irving, the American author. And Washington Irving is going to romanticize the idea of an old-fashioned Christmas. But in this case, even though he's American, he is going to romanticize the idea of an old-fashioned English Christmas, where he's going to depict a Christmas manor house with lords and ladies, but inviting in their servants, and all of them are going to be celebrating together this merry, merry festival. And that's going to appeal to many people in the United States. Something to it, there's probably an element to this, as we shall see with some of these others, that there's also something about the effect of the Industrial Revolution now coming to fore, and people are going to start to yearn for a more simpler time. And one of the ways to do it is in one of these kind of country Christmases. So that's the first person. Washington Irving is going to be extremely important in this. The second person, supposedly, is Clement Clark Moore. Clement Clark Moore, to whom is attributed a little poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas. We know it better as The Night Before Christmas. Now, Clement Clark Moore, who is traditionally the author of A Night Before Christmas, some people are going to dispute it, but for the most part, it is still accepted that he's the person who had done this. He was an American clergyman, and supposedly he wrote this poem for his children. But it is here that Moore is going to adopt images from Dutch settlers in the New York region. They're going to bring with them the celebration of an ancient figure, an ancient saint, St. Nicholas, who is reputed to have given gifts to children and to the poor. They're going to, in fact, to commemorate him as Sinterklaas. Sinterklaas. That's the Dutch version of the St. Nicholas. And Clement Clark Moore is going to take Sinterklaas, or Santa Claus, and he is going to give to him the attributes that we associate with Santa Claus today. The round belly, the beard, the pipe, and all those things, coming down the chimney, bringing gifts to children. So he's going to be the second element that is now going to cement, how should we say, the more modern version of Christmas that continues today. And the third author is going to be Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens, for whom a movie was made a few years ago called The Man Who Saved Christmas. In many ways, Charles Dickens does save Christmas. He brings it out of, how should we say it, Puritan disapproval to becoming a family celebration. That also has to do with Victorian England, but also into making it a celebration that one is to have concern for the poor. One is to celebrate Christmas because of the one who was born on Christmas Day. And of course, he does that through A Christmas Carol and then other Christmas stories that he will write. That will become a best-selling book in England, but he will also go on tours of the United States, and he will read it here, there, and everywhere, and that will also help to solidify the celebration of Christmas within the American mindset as well. The fourth person is an artist. That's Thomas Nast. He's the political cartoonist. And he's going to be the person who gives to Santa Claus finally all the attributes that we see in terms of how he looks. Again, with the beard, the long hair, the clothing, the pot belly, all those sorts of things. Thomas Nast is going to commemorate that, and that becomes, again, that's going to become part of the tradition, Christmas tradition. Now, these works of literature are going to influence the entire Western, especially English-speaking world, but it is also going to get a boost from the German world through Prince Albert, that is Victoria's consort. He's going to bring over German traditions into England, especially things like the Christmas tree. And from there, it is going to be publicized, and it is going to spread, and it has become part of the tradition ever since then. The other thing, however, is that in the 19th century, especially in America, due to the Civil War, but also, again, partially because of the displacement of the Industrial Revolution, we're going to see Christmas being emphasized more and more as a celebration of home and family and reunion and reconciliation. So it is really here that Christmas begins to get, how should we say, the homey feeling, that this is going to be a family celebration. And it is after the Civil War era, in the Gilded Age, when America really starts to industrialize, becoming commercialized, we will see the commercialization of Christmas. The economic aspects of Christmas being highlighted. People go and shop and get things for people. It is also during this time that we start to hear complaints about the commercialization of Christmas and how people have forgotten the religious roots of the holiday. But that continues even in the 19th century into the 20th century. And then as we get into the 20th century with World War I and World War II, again, we're going to have the emphasis upon the feeling of home, of family, of missing home and family due to people being away at war. We get the popular songs, I'll Be Home for Christmas, White Christmas, all those sorts of things. And then finally in the post-World War II era with the baby boom, we're now going to see it it's going to become not just a family celebration, but we're going to hear things like Christmas is for children and that sort of thing. And so it really starts to become linked to the celebration of a children's time and gift giving among children. And that's going to spread even more, and that's what we have today.